Welcome to a story that will shake your heart, open your eyes, and change the way you see success forever. This is not a story about money. This is not about cars, planes, or billion-dollar empires. This is the story of a man who could have married the love of his life, but chose to take care of his sick grandmother. A man who built one of the biggest companies in the world, but still lives alone in a small house, with no wife, no children, no luxury. A man who had everything, and still chose to live like he had nothing. His name? Ratan Tata. And this is the real story behind the man who proved that. You don't need to be loud to be powerful. You don't need to be flashy to be respected. You don't need to show off to inspire the world. If you're tired of fake success stories, if you're tired of influencers talking but not feeling, then this video is for you. In the next 4 parts, you will hear every single detail of Ratan Tata's life. From childhood to heartbreak, from leadership to loneliness, from failure to legacy. And as you listen, you'll also improve your English. Because this story is told in very simple words, step by step, with clear and emotional language. So stay with me until the end, because this story might just be the most powerful, emotional, and unforgettable life story you've ever heard. Now let's begin. Part 1. The boy who was born with a broken family, 1937 to 1955. Before the world called him Sir. Before the boardrooms and billion-dollar deals, Ratan Tata was just a shy little boy, born into a storm. Full name, Ratan Tata. Born December 28, 1937. Place, Bombay, now Mumbai, India. Family lineage, Tata family, one of India's most respected industrial families. But don't let the name fool you. Yes, he was born into wealth, but he was not born into peace. When Ratan was just 10 years old, something happened that would shape the rest of his life. His parents got divorced. Back in the 1940s in India, divorce was rare and shameful. He was sent to live with his grandmother, Lady Navajbai Tata. His younger brother Jimmy went too. But that day, Ratan lost the warmth of a mother's hug and the guidance of a father's hand. From that moment, he learned, sometimes the people who give you life are not the ones who stay in it. Lady Navajbai wasn't just a rich old lady. She was strict, wise, and deeply loving. She raised Ratan like her own son. She taught him discipline, simplicity, respect, and most importantly, kindness. He saw wealth all around him, but he wasn't spoiled. She made sure of it. She told him, "It doesn't matter how much money you have. It matters how you treat people." That lesson would become the foundation of his entire life. Ratan went to Campion School in Mumbai. He was quiet. He was shy. He didn't have many friends. Kids teased him. Why? Because his parents were divorced. Because he didn't show off. Because he preferred drawing, engineering, and dreaming alone. But instead of fighting back, he built strength inside. I will not become like the others, he thought. I will build something better, something kinder. After high school, Ratan got into Cornell University in the USA. He chose to study architecture, not business. Why? Because he loved design, creativity, and making things beautiful. His family didn't agree. They wanted him to study something useful, like engineering or business. But he stood firm. He believed in his dream, even if nobody else did. That's who Ratan was, a quiet rebel with a big heart. While studying in the US, Ratan fell in love for the first time. It was real. It was deep. They were planning to get married. But then, he got a call from India. His grandmother was very sick. Without thinking twice, Ratan left everything, college, girlfriend, future plans, and returned to India. He believed love would wait, but by the time he was ready to bring her back, she had married someone else. That was the moment his heart broke, and it never truly healed. Ratan Tata never married. He never loved anyone the same again. Money can't protect you from family pain. Love sometimes asks you to choose, and you lose. Real strength is built in silence. You don't have to be loud to be powerful. If you stay kind through your pain, the world will one day feel your impact. After losing his first love in the US, Ratan Tata returned to India with something stronger than heartbreak. He returned with a quiet fire inside him. He had just finished his bachelor's in architecture from Cornell University, and later, he completed an advanced management program at Harvard Business School, a course that would later help him lead one of the largest companies in the world. But back then, nobody thought he was CEO material. In fact, when he came back, people looked at him and whispered, "He's just a rich kid with an easy life. He's not tough enough to lead. He's too soft, too gentle, too emotional." They were wrong, but he didn't fight them with words. He decided to answer them with work. He didn't walk into an air-conditioned office. He didn't sit on a leather chair with coffee and meetings. No, Ratan Tata started at the bottom. In 1962, he joined Tata Steel in Jamshedpur, not as a director, not as a manager, but as a blue-collar worker. He worked on the factory floor. He handled furnaces, sweat, dirt, and machines. He wore a helmet, not a suit. He ate with workers, not executives. He wanted to learn the business from the ground up. That's who he was, a man who never wanted shortcuts. He worked day and night, learning every little detail about steel production, labor management, safety protocols, worker problems, factory operations, and all the while, others mocked him. Why is a Tata working in the heat like a laborer? But Ratan didn't explain himself. He was busy preparing for a battle nobody else could see. In the 1970s and 1980s, Ratan tried to bring new ideas to the Tata companies. He wanted to modernize them, introduce better designs, new thinking, fresh strategies. But the old leaders of the Tata Group, especially in the individual companies, didn't like him. They saw him as a kid interfering in their work. They didn't want change. They didn't want his suggestions. And they definitely didn't want him as a future chairman. Many senior executives openly said, "He will destroy the group if he takes over. He's not J.R.D. Tata. He's not a visionary." Even some board members rejected his plans, blocked his proposals, and told him to stay quiet. But here's what Ratan did. He didn't fight. He didn't shout. He didn't quit. He observed, learned, waited, prepared. Like a tiger in the shadows, he watched the problems building. Like a monk in silence, he worked on his knowledge and understanding. Years passed, and then the moment came. J.R.D. Tata was a legend. He led the Tata Group for decades. He started Air India. He was the face of Indian industry. People worshipped him. And when J.R.D. announced in 1991 that he would step down, everyone expected a strong, bold, old-style businessman to take his place. But J.R.D. surprised the world. He said, "Ratan will be my successor." The board was shocked. Some were angry. Others refused to believe it. How could Ratan, the quiet, soft, untested man, lead an empire of 90 companies, tens of thousands of employees, and billions of dollars. But JRD believed in something others didn't see. Ratan has honesty, humility, and heart. He has the courage to be kind in a cruel world, and that is the rarest leadership of all. And just like that, in 1991, Ratan Tata became the chairman of Tata Sons, the holding company of the entire Tata Group. But his real test was just beginning, because the Tata Empire was a mess. When Ratan became chairman, the Tata Group was not one united company. It was like a broken house with 90 rooms, each room doing its own thing. Each Tata company, Tata Steel, Tata Tea, Tata Motors, Tata Chemicals, etc., had its own bosses, own goals, and no unity. There was no shared vision, no brand identity, no common strategy, no global focus. And worst of all, many companies were losing money. India had just opened its economy to global competition. Foreign companies were entering, and the Tata companies were old, slow, and under pressure. Ratan was stepping into a battlefield, and almost every single powerful businessman in India believed he will fail. Even people inside Tata said, "We will not follow him." But Ratan didn't beg. He didn't fire people recklessly. He didn't make grand speeches. He began with one question: what does Tata mean to the world? And from there, he started a silent revolution. The first moves: restructure, reunite, rebuild. Step 1. Bring all Tata companies under one vision. He started bringing unity. One logo, the Tata T1 mission: trust, quality, simplicity. One direction, global leadership. Step 2. Cut the dead weight. He closed down loss-making units. He retired old leaders who refused to change. He focused on innovation, technology, and design. Step 3. Take bold bets. He launched Tata Indica, India's first homegrown car. Tata Consultancy Services, now one of the biggest IT companies. Rebranding of Tata Steel for international expansion. Step 4. Train leaders with values. He didn't just want managers. He wanted servant leaders, people who put ethics before ego, and slowly, quietly, powerfully, the empire began to rise. Part 2. The car that failed. The deal that shocked the world. 1998 to 2009. In the 1990s, India's roads were ruled by foreign cars and old models. Most people drove Maruti, Ambassador, or imported cars. There was no car that truly said, "This is made by India." But Ratan Tata had a vision. He wanted to create the first car built completely in India by Indian engineers in an Indian factory. With Indian pride. A car that middle-class families could afford. A car that wasn't just a machine, but a symbol of self-respect. "Why can't we build our own car?" he asked his team. "Why should we always depend on others?" Everyone said, "It's impossible. We don't have the technology. We will lose millions of dollars." But Ratan didn't back down. He believed in India. He believed in his people. And in 1998, after years of research, sweat, and silent struggle, Ratan Tata launched his dream, Tata Indica. It was the first truly Indian car, and for the first few days, the country was excited. Showrooms were full. Pre-orders were huge. Everyone wanted to support a made-in-India car. But then, the nightmare began. Just months after launch, reports came in. The car had performance issues. Mileage was not as good as promised. People were unhappy. Sales dropped. Showrooms became empty. And the same media that once praised Ratan now attacked him without mercy. Headlines read, "Tata's big flop. The car that shouldn't have been made. Ratan Tata's biggest mistake." And worst of all, people laughed. Big business tycoons, foreign companies, investors, they all mocked him. See, we told you he's not a real leader. He doesn't understand the market. He should resign. It was a storm, a dark, heavy storm of public failure. And then came the most painful moment. In 1999, Ratan Tata was advised by his board to sell the Tata Motors passenger car division, the same division that built the Indica. The loss was massive. The embarrassment was worse. It was personal. Ratan finally agreed, and with a heavy heart, he flew to Detroit, the home of America's auto giants, to meet Ford Motor Company. He sat across the table from Ford's chairman, hoping to sell his car business. But instead of respect, he was insulted. A Ford executive looked him in the eye and said, "You don't know anything about cars. Why did you even try to build one? If you give us this company, we'll do you a favor by buying it." Ratan listened silently. No reply, no anger, no emotion. He got up and walked away. He didn't sell Tata Motors. He didn't forget those words, and he didn't give up on his dream. Instead, he returned to India and said, "They will regret this." Ratan didn't waste a single day. He sat with engineers, studied every complaint, fixed the design, improved performance, and launched Indica 5.2, a much better version. This time, it worked. Sales increased. People started trusting the car again. And slowly, Tata Motors became a respected brand. But Ratan was not done. He wanted to prove something more. Fast forward to 2008. Ford, the same company that insulted him, was now in deep financial trouble. Their luxury brands, Jaguar and Land Rover, were losing money. They wanted to sell. And guess who came to the table? Ratan Tata, the same man they once humiliated. Ford executives now welcomed him with folded hands. In March 2008, Tata Group bought Jaguar and Land Rover from Ford for $2.3 billion. That's right. The man who was once told, "You don't know anything about cars," now owned two of the most iconic car brands in the world. And after the deal, the same Ford chairman who insulted him said, "You are doing us a big favor by buying our company." Can you feel the power of this moment? It wasn't revenge. It wasn't ego. It was poetic justice. The world finally saw what India could do, and they saw what a quiet man with a clear heart could build. What happened next? Under Tata, Jaguar and Land Rover became profitable within 2 years. Their new models were a hit across the world. Tata Motors became a global force in the automobile industry. Ratan didn't just save a brand, he saved a dream. He proved that India could not only build cars, it could run the best car companies on earth. After the global shock of Tata buying Jaguar and Land Rover in 2008, Ratan Tata could have slowed down. He could have taken a break. He could have celebrated. But that's not who he was. Ratan didn't want to build cars just for the rich. He wanted to build a car for the common man. It all began in 2003, in a traffic jam. Ratan Tata was in Mumbai. The roads were wet. It was raining. He looked out of his car window and saw something that broke his heart. A small scooter was wobbling between cars. On it sat a father driving, a small child in front of him, a mother behind him, holding a baby, all on one two-wheeler under a plastic sheet in the rain. It was dangerous, uncomfortable, and painful to watch. Ratan couldn't take his eyes off them. He asked himself, why should a poor man have to risk his entire family's life on a scooter? Why can't I build a car that costs the same as a motorbike? And in that moment, he made a silent promise. I will build a car for $2,000. A car for the people. The world laughed when he said it. They called it impossible, a dream, a PR stunt. But he didn't care. He gathered a team of engineers, designers, and dreamers. And for the next 5 years, they worked in silence, facing challenge after challenge. How to reduce parts without reducing safety. How to make the car light but strong. How to bring the price down without losing trust. It was like climbing Mount Everest with no shoes. But Ratan Tata never gave up. In 2008, at the Auto Expo in New Delhi, in front of thousands of people, journalists, and critics, Ratan Tata stepped on the stage with a small, boxy, humble-looking car beside him. He said, "A promise is a promise, and I am here to keep mine." He removed the curtain and revealed Tata Nano, the cheapest car in the world. Priced at $2,000, about 1 lakh rupees in India. The crowd erupted. People couldn't believe it. India was proud. The world was shocked. Headlines screamed, "India's people's car has arrived." Tata breaks price barrier. The revolution on 4 wheels. But just as the celebrations began, the storm arrived. To produce Tata Nano at a large scale, Tata Motors started building a massive factory in Singur, a village in West Bengal. They had legally acquired around 1,000 acres of land. Construction began quickly. Machines arrived. Hope filled the air. But within months, a massive protest broke out. Some local farmers, along with political groups, said, "We were forced to give our land. This is not development. This is robbery." Even though many farmers had accepted money, others claimed they had no choice, no freedom. What began as a political issue turned into a public fire. Thousands of people protested at the factory gates. Activists shouted. Media exploded. Politicians jumped in. Ratan Tata, who had never faced this kind of public chaos before, was deeply hurt. He believed he was bringing jobs, dignity, and growth to the village. But now he was being called a land thief, a villain, a corporate bully. Ratan doesn't usually speak in public with anger. But this time, standing in a press conference, his face calm but voice sharp, he said, "If we are not wanted here, we will leave. We do not want to be where we are unwanted." And with those 18 words, he made one of the boldest moves in modern business history. He shut down the nearly finished Singur factory, moved the entire project out of West Bengal, and restarted everything in Sanand, Gujarat, 1,500 kilometers away. Within 14 months, a brand new factory was ready. Cars began rolling out. He had lost millions of dollars, time, energy. But he didn't give up. He never spoke badly of anyone. He never fought in courts. He simply moved on with dignity. Even after all the pain, Ratan believed the Nano would win hearts. But something strange happened. People didn't want to buy it. Why? Because it was seen as a cheap car. Not affordable, but cheap. In India, where vehicles are often seen as status symbols, people thought, if I buy a Nano, people will think I'm poor. Sales dropped. The car that was meant to lift people up was now seen as an embarrassment by the very people it was meant for. Marketing mistakes, poor brand positioning, and some technical issues added to the fall. And after a few years, the production of Nano slowly stopped. Ratan once said in an interview, "Nano was the biggest disappointment of my life, not because it failed, but because people misunderstood its purpose. It was built with love. and it broke my heart. This wasn't about money. Tata had more money than they could spend. This was about a promise, a dream to give dignity to the poor, and the world rejected it. But even then, he never blamed anyone. He didn't complain. He didn't hide. He didn't fight. He just stayed silent and kept walking. While all of this was happening, Ratan continued to grow the Tata Empire. He focused on corporate social responsibility, CSR, global expansion, innovation across Tata Steel, Tata Chemicals, Tata Power, supporting startups, youth innovation, and rural education. He gave millions of dollars in scholarships to Indian students going to Harvard, Cornell, MIT, because he never forgot the importance of education. He supported disaster relief during floods, earthquakes, and terror attacks, always quietly, never with big cameras or publicity. And through it all, he remained a symbol of grace, dignity, and ethical leadership. Part 4. The Final Years of the Lion. Loneliness, Legacy, and Letting Go. The Tata Nano dream had hurt him deeply. The car that was meant to bring dignity to the poor had become a memory. But even in that pain, Ratan Tata kept walking. And now a new chapter was approaching. He was turning 75. He had led the Tata Group for more than 20 years. He had taken it global, saved it from collapse, grown its worth to over $100 billion, earned the respect of millions. And yet, he was alone. No wife, no children, no big personal estate, just one man in one apartment, with one dream still left: to leave behind something bigger than himself. Most CEOs dream of staying in power forever, but not Ratan. He believed true leadership is knowing when to leave. But it wasn't that easy. The Tata Group had grown so huge, with more than 100 companies, thousands of employees, and billions of dollars in business, that choosing the next leader became one of the most difficult and painful decisions of his life. He had to find someone who was honest, brave, modern, but also humble, disciplined, and ethical. Someone who could carry the weight of the Tata name. The Tata Trusts, which owns 66% of Tata Sons, the parent company, formed a committee to help Ratan find a successor. After months of thinking, interviews, and private discussions, they chose Cyrus Mistry, the son of construction tycoon Palonji Mistry. He was young, sharp, and had experience in managing big companies. So in December 2012, Ratan Tata stepped down. He quietly left the chairman's office, with no grand farewell, no red carpet, just a silent walk down the corridor. One final look at the empire he built with pain and love, and he was gone. No ego, no drama, just quiet dignity. But the peace didn't last. In 2016, just 4 years after his retirement, everything exploded. The Tata Sons board suddenly announced that Cyrus Mistry was removed as chairman. The reason? Conflicts in vision, differences in leadership style. Some reports said he was moving away from Tata's values. Others said it was personal politics. Cyrus Mistry pushed back. He went to court. The entire Tata brand was dragged into public legal battles. And people were shocked. This wasn't the quiet Tata they knew. Suddenly, newspapers were full of headlines like, "Tata House in Trouble," "Family Feud in Corporate India," "Why did Ratan Tata return?" Yes, Ratan Tata came back as interim chairman in 2016 to stabilize the group. At age 79, when most people rest, Ratan stood up again. Not for power, but to protect his family. The Tata family. He didn't shout. He didn't blame. He simply said, I'm here to ensure stability and dignity, that's all. After months of search, the group finally appointed Natarajan Chandrasekaran in 2017, the first non-Parsi chairman in Tata history. He had risen from a very humble background, worked at Tata Consultancy Services, and proved his worth. Ratan trusted him. He stepped back, for the final time, but he never stopped caring. He still sat on the boards. He still guided young leaders. He still read every report. But his body was tired, his eyes were slower, and his heart was full of memories, scars, and quiet victories. Ratan Tata lived alone in a simple apartment in Kolaba, Mumbai. No bodyguards, no butlers, no gold, no parties. He lived with a few dogs. He had a small office where he worked daily, even after retirement. He drove himself. He replied to emails personally. He sometimes visited Tata hospitals without telling anyone, to meet poor patients. He loved dogs, especially strays. He adopted many. Design and architecture. Reading quietly. Helping unknown startups and young entrepreneurs. He never wanted to be called a billionaire. He once said, "I don't want to be remembered for how much money I made. I want to be remembered for the difference I made." But in private, he also had pain. He once told a friend, "I have achieved a lot, but I have no one to share it with." He had no children. He had no partner. He had only memories. In his final years as active leader, Ratan focused on Tata Trusts, giving away over $100 million every year for education, health, water, nutrition, and rural development. Building cancer care networks across India, because he saw poor patients suffer alone. Creating centers for innovation for young Indian engineers. Mentoring startups and investing in them, not for profit, but to see new dreams rise. Some of the startups he supported: Ola, Snapdeal, Urban Ladder, Nestaway, Paytm. He didn't ask for shares. He didn't demand returns. He just gave money, advice, and encouragement. And always with the same words. Do it with honesty. Never forget why you started. He's not loved because he's rich. He's loved because he's honest. He's kind. He never takes credit. He never shows off. He respects even the lowest worker. He stood by India when others ran away. During the 26th of November Mumbai terrorist attack, he personally visited the families of those who died, whether they were hotel guests or cleaning staff. He rebuilt their homes, paid their children's education. Quietly. He was the only industrialist who stood outside the hospital in the rain, alone, without cameras, just to see how the injured were doing. That's Ratan Tata. Legacy is not built by noise. It's built by quiet, honest work. Being rich doesn't mean anything if you don't lift others with your success. Leadership is not about power. It's about responsibility. Even the greatest lions grow old, but they never stop protecting their people. After handing over the Tata Group to Natarajan Chandrasekaran, Ratan Tata was no longer the chairman. He didn't hold any powerful title. He wasn't running any office. He didn't appear on magazine covers. But his impact? Stronger than ever. Because true power doesn't come from the chair you sit in. It comes from the lives you touch, without needing applause. Ratan Tata now lives in a small, modest apartment in Kolaba, Mumbai. No mansion, no security guards, no fancy lifestyle. He wakes up early, feeds his dogs, sometimes drives his own car, and spends most of his time doing things that bring peace to his soul, not power to his name. Every day he visits Tata Trust's office, reads letters from common people, writes personal replies, supports new ideas from youth, donates to causes without ever announcing it. His staff says, he never shouts, he never shows anger, even when people betray him. He just goes quiet. In a world where leaders crave cameras, Ratan Tata found peace in disappearing from the spotlight. But the light he left behind, it only grew brighter. Behind the success, the fame, the love from millions, there is a silence that lives with him. He never married. He never had children. He spends most of his nights alone. He once said in an interview, "There are days when I wish I had someone beside me at the dinner table. But I also believe my life was meant for something else." He still remembers the woman he almost married in Los Angeles, the one he lost because of duty, family, and fate. He never tried again. He never searched again. Instead, he gave his love to his dogs, his people, his work, his country, and above all, to his values. Ratan Tata's softest side? His unconditional love for animals. He has adopted many stray dogs, some blind, some injured, some abandoned. They live with him. They sit beside him while he works. He feeds them himself. In fact, the Tata headquarters in Mumbai has a special space where stray dogs live peacefully, because Ratan insisted on it. He once said, "Animals don't pretend. They don't cheat. They just love you. And that's rare in this world." In a world filled with false friends, Ratan found loyalty in paws and eyes that couldn't speak. Though he never wanted awards, the world couldn't ignore him. He has received Padma Bhushan, 2000, Padma Vibhushan, 2008, Knight Grand Cross of the British Empire, Carnegie Medal of Philanthropy, honorary doctorates from top universities like Harvard and Cornell, named in Time magazine's 100 most influential people. But do you know his response? "These are not mine. These belong to the people who trusted me." He never kept trophies in his house. He never framed his achievements, because what mattered to him were the lives he touched, not the lists he entered. Even after retirement, Ratan Tata kept working behind the scenes on Tata Cancer Care, building over 60 cancer care centers across India, for poor families who couldn't afford treatment, free food, transport, shelter for patients, rural water projects, bringing clean water to over 2,000 villages, creating rainwater harvesting systems, training villagers to manage their own water, education programs, full scholarships to poor children for global universities, free digital learning programs in rural India, startup mentorship, investing in small ideas, big dreams, funding young minds who had no investors, never asking for returns. He said, "My dream is not to build a company. My dream is to build a country where kindness is not rare." Here are some quotes that show his soul. "Don't just build businesses. Build lives. Walk with the weak so they don't feel left behind. Ups and downs in life are very important. They make you stronger. I don't believe in taking right decisions. I take decisions, and then make them right. Be humble. You are not the universe. You are a part of it." To the world, Ratan Tata is a billionaire who chose simplicity, a giant who never stepped on others, a visionary who never forgot his roots, a leader who never raised his voice, but always raised others, a man who could have lived in gold, but chose to walk on stone. To India, he is not just a businessman. He is a father figure, a moral compass, and a silent soldier of values. To the poor, he is hope. To animals, he is home. To the young, he is inspiration. And to the world, he is proof that you can live with power, without ever hurting others. Ratan Tata never made a farewell speech, but in his last interviews, he gave one simple message. Do what is right, not what is easy. And remember, people will forget your money, but they will never forget how you made them feel. He wanted young people to dream with purpose, earn with honesty, lead with kindness, never forget their country, family, and humanity. He often said, I was born rich, yes, but I wanted to die useful. Success without values is failure. True greatness is invisible. You don't need to be loud to be heard. You don't need to win over people. Just win over your conscience. You don't need millions of followers. Just a clean heart. Ratan Tata's final goodbye. A tribute. On October 9th, 2024, the world lost not just a businessman, but a man who had quietly become a symbol of honesty, humility, and humanity. Ratan Tata passed away at the age of 86 in Mumbai, the city where he was born, lived, worked, and gave everything. He died the way he lived, peacefully, silently, and without asking for attention. No luxury hospital, no headlines written by him, no goodbyes broadcast on TV. Just a quiet breath, and a world that paused to say, "Thank you, sir." After his death, Tata Group observed a day of silence. Tributes poured in from presidents, prime ministers, CEOs, workers, and students. His entire $460 million, 3,800 crore rupees, personal estate was gifted to Tata Charitable Trusts, just as he had promised. The dogs he rescued were cared for in his name. The hospitals he built now have his name on their walls, but not for ego, for memory. The man who could have taken everything chose to leave it all behind. He didn't die rich. He died useful. Before he passed, Ratan Tata left behind one simple message for the future generation. Always do the right thing, even if no one sees you. Help people, even if they can never repay you. Live with honesty. Lead with love. And when you die, make sure the world becomes a little better because you were here. Let that message live in your heart forever. If this story moved you, if you felt something real in your heart today, then don't let it fade. Live like Ratan Tata. Lead with purpose. Stay humble. And never stop helping others. Subscribe to this channel if you want more powerful, life-changing stories like this. Stories that don't just teach English, but teach you how to live. Thank you for watching. God bless your journey. And remember, kindness never dies. It lives on in people like you.